Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. My dear students, Assalamu alaikum. How are you? Hope that you all will be fine. And again I am here, but you are not here, so I have to deliver the lecture. Now today, you know that last time we were discussing about the gastrointestinal drugs. Under that heading we have discussed so many drugs regarding this GIT infection or the GIT problems. Now today we are going to discuss the last topic under the same heading, that is gastrointestinal drugs, that is the antidiarrheal drugs, purgative and laxative. Now hope that you will be follow that lecture. Now the topic of today's lecture, that the drugs for the constipation and diarrhea. Drugs for the constipation and diarrhea. Now you know what is diarrhea, you know what is constipation, because these are not the new words for you and you can understand easily, that is diarrhea and constipation. Now the topic is that drugs for constipation and diarrhea. Now under that heading, you know that the most important drugs, first of all we will discuss the laxative, purgative and cathartics. Laxative, purgative and cathartics, also apprehensions. So these are the drugs which are the topic of today's lecture. Now the laxative, purgative, cathartics and apprehensions. Now again, first of all, that is what do you mean by these drugs? Now these are the drugs that promotes the evacuation of the bowel, because we are discussing about first the constipation. Constipation is that condition in which there is no movement of the intestine, though no movement of peristaltic movement, or there is no movement of the gut. So that's what the bowel is having the food or the content in that. So we have to use certain components, certain compounds which are responsible for the movement of these compounds or the food components, and these are known as the drugs that promotes the evacuation of the bowel, because in case of constipation the bowel is not evacuated properly. So we have to use certain drugs, certain compounds which are responsible for the evacuation of the bowel, Now under that heading, you know that first the laxative and the apprehensions. Now these are milder acting drugs, causing elimination of the soft but formed stool. Now what do you mean by formed stool? Formed stool means the healthy stool. So these are the milder acting drugs causing elimination of the soft or but formed stool. Now next is the purgative or the cathartics. Purgative or cathartics, these are the stronger than the laxative or the apprehensions. So purgative or cathartics both having the same mechanism of action, both having the same pharmacological action. They are the stronger acting drugs or the compounds, resulting in more fluid evacuation. Now in this case, when we use the purgative or cathartics, there is evacuation of the fluid beside the food components or the contents. So many drugs regarding this purgative, cathartics, laxative, apprehensions, many drugs, particularly the purgative and cathartics, many drugs in low dose, be careful about this, many drugs in low dose act as laxative, and in high dose they act as a purgative. Now what is the difference between these two? Laxatives are those which causes the softness of the stool, and purgatives are those which causes the evacuation of the bowel, right? So in low dose they act as a laxative, in high dose they act as a purgative. Now coming to the classification of these drugs, First of all, the bulk forming. Now what do you mean by bulk forming? Bulk forming are those drugs which are used to form the bulk of the components or the contents present in the bowel, because whenever there is increase in the formation of the contents of the bowel or the bulk of the bowel, there is increase in the peristaltic movement, increase in the movement of the bowel in the gut. So bulk forming drugs, these are the dietary fibers, bran, isopropyl and methyl cellulose. These are known as bulk forming, because when we take these drugs, they increases the content of the food present in the bowl. So that's why they increases the content of the food and the bowl. That's why they are known as bulk forming drugs. Second is the stool softener. Stool softener means those drugs which causes the softness of the stool, which causes the softness of the stool. That is, these drugs, Dr. Syeda, known as DOS, liquid paraffin. Stimulant purgatives means that stimulant purgatives, those which are used for the stimulation, they causes the stimulation in the movement of the food component in the bowel. They are diphenhydramine, particularly the phenolphthalein, bisacodyl, and sodium picsulfate, phenolphthalein, bisacodyl, sodium picsulfate. They are known as stimulant purgative. Why? Because they cause the stimulation in the intestine, in the gut, in the bowel. So there is increase in the evacuation or the movement of the bowel. So there is increase in the process of evacuation. So second is the anthraquinones. Anthraquinones, that is imodiums, senna, cascara sativa. These are the anthraquinones. Anthraquinones also causes the stimulation. They causes the irritation of the gut. So there is stimulation of the gut, and that's why there is increase in the movement of the bowel. Third one is, or C is 5-hydroxy-T4. Now again coming to 5-hydroxy-T4 means that 5-hydroxytryptamine with the receptor. Fourth one, agonist, because it increases the activity of this receptor. When this drug combined with this receptor, there is increase in the agonistic activity, increase in the activity of the bowel. That is known as tagasilol. Fixed oil castor oil. Castor oil is then also responsible for the stimulation of the bowel, they causes the irritation of the gut. Now osmotic purgative. Fourth one is the osmotic purgative. So first is the magnesium salt, sulfate hydroxide, sodium salt, sulfate phosphate, sodium potassium tartarate, and lactulose. It is not lactose, it is lactulose. Now lactulose, you know that this is the ketonic form of the lactulose. So this is the sodium potassium tartarate and lactulose. Now mechanism of action of this drug. Actually this purgative, cathartics, and antidiarrheal drugs, these are not so much difficult. You can, if you can read this yourself, you can easily understand. But as far as my responsibility is concerned, I have to explain these things. So mechanism of action, first of all, the purgatives. Purgative increases the water content of the feces. Why? Because what is the use of this purgative? The mechanism of action of this purgative is that they increases the water content of the feces. Now how they increases the water content? By the hydrophilic or osmotic action. Retaining water and electrolytes. They causes the retaining of the water and electrolytes in the intestinal lumen. Causes increase in the volume of the colonic content, because whenever there is retention of the water, there is increase in the colonic content and make it easy to propel. Again, the question is this, that what is the use of this purgative? Purgative causes the retention of water and the electrolytes. So whenever there is retention of water and electrolytes, automatically there is increase in the volume of the colonic or the bowel content and make it easy to propel. Make it easy to propel means increases the peristaltic movement. To propel the food component or increasing the peristaltic movement. Now second B part, the mechanism of action. These purgative acting on the intestinal mucosa. When they act on the intestinal mucosa, they causes the decreased net absorption of water and electrolyte, and causes increase in the intestinal transit and enhances the blood flow. Now first is that they increases the retention of water. Second is they decreases the absorption of water. So when there is no absorption of water by the intestinal mucosa, they causes increase in the intestinal transit, means that the food remain in the intestine for some time, and when there is remaining of the food in the intestine for some time, that automatically causes enhancement of the bulk food. They causes the enhancement of the bulk of the food. So whenever there is increase in the bulk of the food, automatically there is increase in the peristaltic movement or the movement of the gut, and they propel the food components, right? Now third mechanism of action, that is increasing the propulsive activity as primary action. Increasing the propulsive activity as primary action. Now, increasing the propulsive activity as primary action. Less time for absorption of salt and water as a secondary effect. Now, what do you mean by as a secondary effect? Because first they increases the retaining of water and electrolyte. Second, they decreases the retention but increasing the volume of that food components. Third is this, that they increases the propulsive activity. Propulsive means that is propulsion of the bowel or the intestinal movement as primary action. Less time due to this propulsive activity, increase in the propulsive activity causes the less time for the absorption of salt and water as a secondary effect. Again, there is less time for the absorption, there is increase in the bulk of the food components, and there is increase in the movement of the gut and the evacuation of the bowel. Now laxatives. First we have discussed the purgative, now laxative. Laxatives modify the fluid dynamics of the mucosal cell. Now these laxatives usually act upon the mucosal cells of the intestine. So in this case, they causes the modification of the fluid dynamics, that is modification of the fluid components in the mucosal cell of the intestine, causing accumulation of the fluid in the lumen of the gut. Again, accumulation of the fluid in the lumen of the gut. So by inhibiting sodium potassium ATPase of the villous cells, which causes impairment of the electrolytes and water absorption. Now again, it is not a new word for you because we are discussing this word, this enzyme, since from the first Prof. Now you are in second Prof, you must be knowing about this sodium potassium adenosine triphosphatase. Now this adenosine triphosphatase is responsible to dissociate, to break down the adenosine triphosphate, and whenever there is breakdown of adenosine triphosphate, there is breakdown of the bond, and you know whenever there is breakdown of the bond, there is release of energy. Now that energy is utilized for the exchange of the electrolytes, that is sodium and potassium, from inside the cell and outside the cell. So by inhibiting this enzyme, when there is no action of this enzyme, it means that there is no exchange of these cations, that is electrolytes sodium and potassium of the villous cells of the intestine, which causes impairment of electrolytes and water absorption. So whenever there is impairment arises in the exchange of sodium and potassium, automatically there is impairment of the electrolytes and water absorption. Electrolytes and water absorption. Now next is the stimulating adenylyl cyclase. It is sodium potassium ATPase, it is adenylyl cyclase. Now what is the function of this adenylyl cyclase? Again, not a new word, adenylyl cyclase. It is the enzyme which is responsible for the conversion of adenosine triphosphate into cyclic AMP. That is the cyclic AMP, which is the second messenger, plays an important role in our body. So stimulating the adenylyl cyclase in crypt cell, that was the villous cells, that is the crypt cells. So when there is stimulation of this enzyme in the crypt cells, they increases the water and electrolyte secretion. There is impairment, there is increase in the secretion of the electrolytes and water. So third one is that enhancing the prostaglandin synthesis in the mucosa, which increases the secretion. Again, prostaglandins, you know, it is the component which comes under the heading of hormones, hormonal, local hormonal-like structure, hormonal-like activities. That's why they are known as local hormones. Prostaglandins, they, I have told you, under the heading of hormones, these prostaglandins, they are the derivatives of the unsaturated fatty acid, having 20 carbon in their structure with 4 bonds, 4 double bond, that is unsaturated. So these prostaglandins enhancing the synthesis in the mucosa, which increases the secretion, Now, coming to the bulk purgatives. Now, bulk purgative first is the brawn. Bulk purgatives means those which form the bulk of the bulk in the intestine. So, brawn is the first bulk purgative. Dietary, it is the dietary fiber. Unabsorbable, because these fibers cannot be absorbed by the body. They are just utilized to increase the bulk of the food material. So it's byproduct of the food. What is the bran? Bran is nothing but it is the byproduct of the flour, because when we use the flour and the byproduct of this flour, it is known as bran. जिसे आप कहते हैं कि जब हम आटे को छान लेते हैं उसके ऊपर जो चीज़ आती है, that is known as bran. Having 40% of the dietary fibers. It is having 40% of the dietary fibers, right? Now it absorbs water, increases the content of the food, and causes the softness of the food. Now, why food becomes hard? Why this content of the intestine becomes hard? Because when there is decrease in the absorption of the water. So this bran increases the water absorption, increases the content of the food, and causes the softness. When there is increase in the water absorption, automatically the food content increases, and they causes the softness of the food and facilitate the colonic transit. Pectins also have the same function. Colonic transit means that they facilitate the colonic transit, that is the food remains sometime in the bowel or in the intestine, large intestine. And when there is increase in the amount of the bowel, automatically it propels out, and that is the use of the brawn in case of purgatives. It causes the softness of the food. I've told you that purgatives and the laxatives, one causes the softness, second causes the evacuation. So this is the pectin and the brawn also have the same function, right? Now dietary fibers help in growth of bacteria. The other function of the brawn, that is the dietary fibers, they help in the growth of the bacteria in the colon and contribute in fecal mass. Now you know that bacteria are present in our large intestine. So the dietary fibers help in the growth of these bacteria in the colon and contribute in fecal masses. Fecal masses means that they causes increase in the mass of the feces. So that's why they can be easily evacuated. So they bind with bile acid. Now what is the mechanism of action of these dietary fibers? How they causes the increase in the fecal mass? They bind with the bile acids. Now bile acids, you know that these are the acids which are formed from the cholesterol. Now these bile salts, be a bile acid, you know, they perform an important role in the process of digestion and absorption of the lipids. On the other hand, these bile acid promotes the excretion of the feces. Now, they causes the degradation of cholesterol. Why there is degradation of cholesterol? Because cholesterol is the precursor for the synthesis of the bile salts and bile acid. So whenever there is increase in the synthesis of bile acid, there is decrease in the cholesterol. So that's why this brawn or the fiber diet is used to decrease the cholesterol, because the bile salts causes the degradation of cholesterol in the liver. So the degradation of cholesterol in the liver is enhanced. Plasma low density lipoprotein cholesterol level decreases. Now again, low density lipoprotein, you know about the lipoprotein. They are having various classes such as high density lipoproteins, low density lipoproteins, very low density lipoproteins. So these low density lipoproteins, if we consider this classification of the lipoproteins, that is high density, low density, very low density, chylomicrons, fatty acids, all these are the classification of these lipoproteins. Amongst that, high density lipoproteins is the good lipoproteins, because it is responsible to carry the cholesterol and to utilize this cholesterol in the liver, whereas low density lipoprotein is the bad lipoprotein, which is not responsible for the cholesterol, to carry the cholesterol. So that's why low density lipoprotein cholesterol decreases by the fiber diet. So it means that there is increase in the high density lipoprotein, right? So that's why there is increase in the level of cholesterol or the concentration of cholesterol in the blood or the body. So next is that they act to prevent the functional constipation. They act to prevent the functional constipation. Now, so it is the first line approach for the most patients of simple constipation. Functional constipation is nothing but a simple constipation because there is no requirement of any drug, there is no requirement of any chemical compound, only the fiber diet. If we take the fiber diet, it causes the increase in the bulk of the food component. So when there is increase in the bulk of food component due to the increase in the absorption of water, then there is increase in the peristaltic movement and it may cause the softness of the stool and that can be easily evacuated. So they act to prevent the functional constipation. It is the first line approach for most patients of the simple constipation. For the simple constipation, we can use the brawn, that is the brawn and pectins. Now, prolonged use of brawn relieves the symptoms of the irritable bowel syndrome. Prolonged use of brawn relieves the symptoms of the irritable bowel syndrome. Irritable bowel syndrome we have discussed in our previous lecture in detail about one complete lecture on this irritable bowel syndrome, which is present, which occurs in the intestine. So this prolonged use may cause the relieving the symptoms of this irritable bowel syndrome by reducing the intraluminal pressure, by reducing the intraluminal pressure in the intestine, right, or in the bowel. Now, symptoms of the irritable bowel syndrome. What are the symptoms which we have discussed in our previous lecture, last lecture? Now, it may cause the stomach cramps, bloating. What is bloating? That is, bloating means discomfort, diarrhea, and constipation. Sometimes diarrhea and constipation may cause this. Now, brawn used for prevention of the constipation, not to treat the constipated patient. This is the important point, that brawn used for prevention of constipation, because you can say that we can use a prophylactically to prevent the constipation. So brawn used for the prevention of the constipation, not to treat the constipated patient. If a patient is already constipated, so brawn cannot be used for this treatment of that constipation. Other components, other drugs, other chemical compounds can be used to treat this constipation of the patient. It is only used prophylactically to prevent the constipation, just to increase the bulk of the food component or the material. Now next is the psyllium, that is pectogol and ispagol. Ispagol, they contain natural colloidal mucilages which forms gelatinous cell mass, that is gelatinous mass by absorbing water. Gelatinous mass by absorbing water. So these psyllium or the ispagol, they contains natural colloidal mucilage. Colloidal, you know that crystalloids and colloid. So it is a colloidal mucilage which forms the gelatinous mass of the absorbing water. When they absorb the water, they become gelatin-like property. They show the gelatin-like properties. So that's why they are known as gelatinous mass. But it increases the bulk of the stool. Again, they increase it, that is ispagol, they increases the bulk of the food on the stool. When there is increase in the bulk of the food, automatically there is increase in the bulk of the stool. Increases the movement of the gut. When there is, again, repeatedly I am saying that when there is increase in the bulk of food, there is increase in the movement of the gut, increase in the, that is propulsion of the bulk of the food material, and that may cause the increase in the movement of the gut. It's bulk forming laxative. Now it is bulk forming laxative. Bulk forming laxative means they show the laxative activity by forming a bulk in the food content in the bowel. Not to be
be swallowed dry. Now, the main important thing that this isvapor cannot be swallowed dry, because you know that it immediately absorbs the water and becomes that becomes swallow. So when there is swelling of this this isvapor takes place, it is very difficult to swallow, because it becomes immediately in a large bolus material. So that's why it cannot be swallowed dry. It should be taken in case with water. It should be dissolved in the water, and then that can be taken, that can be swallowed easily. So it decreases the cholesterol. Always all these fibrous diet, they decreases the cholesterol, which we have discussed in this above paragraph or lines, that they decreases the cholesterol.